Hey guys, so today I wanted to really get my work done from the morning till the night, till literally I closed my eyes and put my head on my pillow, and that just didn't go well because I'm just not having a great weekend mentally. I think everyone goes through those moments where you're just a little down, and doing work when you're not really forced to be in a workplace is kind of difficult when you're already feeling down because you're like, do I have to do this? No one's really forcing me to do it. Instagram, Twitter, follow me there. It's a really fun time, but also I have a main channel that I usually don't mention here unless it's just in description. But I do in fact have a main channel that's in description in every single video. So if you want to watch that and you're wondering, who am I? Why did I just get here to 100k with literally 7 videos? It's because I have a main channel. Today's video is another reaction / commentary on James Charles's reality show called Instant Influencer. Basically 4 episodes of trying to get these people to be influencers. Do you see the point? This is episode 3. My last video was episodes 1 and 2 because I kind of didn't think to do this until episode 2 came out, and then I saw other people do it and I was like, genius. So now I'm doing it episode by episode, and then the next episode will be the last one, I believe, and we will find out who is the instant influencer. So we start off this episode with a little bit of drama and a little bit of tea. Every single video has 2 challenges. The first one is like a mini challenge, which usually is only about 5 minutes of the show, and then the second challenge takes up the rest of the episode along with the verdict and who is staying, who is leaving. Please ignore my nails, I will cut them all down. I do my nails at home anyway, so it's not like a big deal, but at the same time I just cannot be asked to do them. So I'm gonna wait for them to grow out again, and then maybe I'll have long nails again, but right now I'm on a struggle bus. The first challenge is usually something really small, like in the first one they had to come in already with their makeup on and it was supposed to be some kind of representation of themselves. In the second episode, the first small challenge was 30-minute or 15-minute full glam red carpet look, and then this time the task got a little bit more criticism, but not on YouTube, but just mainly on Twitter because that's where most of the criticism usually is. The first task was an apology. So James Charles comes in and he puts on this beautiful act where he's like, I know what you guys did. I know what you did. You're looking at me like you're confused. And they're all confused, clearly, because they know they didn't do anything. And then he goes, I'm joking, you have nothing to apologize for. And they're like, oh, phew. And he basically says, once you get to a certain point on YouTube, there will come a time where people are calling you out left, right, and center, and you might have to have an apology. And today we're doing a funny apology task where he gave them really silly things like, oh, over face tuning your pictures, putting a mid-roll ads on your first apology, so now you're making an apology about that apology. It was basically a task like that. So I think in that being the case, I think this wasn't supposed to be a challenge that was supposed to be taken seriously. It was supposed to be literally just a cancel culture and this whole calling out for literally nothing. I think we all, when we start kind of coming on the internet, we all find ourselves being overly outraged by everything, and then you kind of slow down and you realize that it's not actually fun to be angry about everything, which is kind of the point that I've come to. And that's kind of to do more with my main channel, where I've reached the point of I'm not going to have a go at everyone for doing everything. I might mention it as a little story, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna have a go at them for it. Whereas before, when I started my channel, I would really have a go at people over the smallest things, and I think it kind of makes you more angry as a person, and I'm definitely a lot more happy now not calling people out over small things. I'll mention in the video, say this is what some people think, this is what I think, what do you guys think? But I think my content now, some people have a problem with my main channel content now because they almost want me to be mean to people, and that's a problem that they need to fix in themselves. But I'm a lot more happy with my content now because it just seems so much more tame, and I feel so much less guilty over the things I say, which is just what you want on the internet. Anyway, it's a bit of a tangent. And that's why I like this channel, because it's so tame. It's just me talking about makeup or instant influencer. So he gives them really tame scandals, if you can even call them that, and he makes them make an apology video in 15 minutes. Kaylin, the sweetheart that she is, took this really seriously, and she didn't finish her apology because she was trying to script it out. Bless her heart. She got the you put mid-rolls in your previous apology, so now you're apologizing for your other apology, and I just felt so bad because she seems like such a sweetheart. I think Gabe had the missing his meet and greet. Benny had... What did Benny have? Benny had a really silly one, and Ashley had a really silly one. The other one was face tuning your pictures too much. I think that was Benny's. And then Ashley had a different one. The first challenge got a lot of heat on the internet. There were even tweets on Twitter with 100,000 likes, basically saying, this is the reason why we don't believe influencer apologies, because they're all fake and this just shows it. I can see both sides of the argument, definitely. I think I can see how this might make people feel icky about seeing people cry, mainly after Benny's performance, seeing people cry and pull on that whole thing, kind of the Laura Lee type apologies. But I can also see the other side where this was supposed to just be a fun activity and just to tell them like, you will get to the point, possibly, like this is supposed to be a way for you guys to get to the point where there will be a lot of eyes on you and people will not agree with you on some things and you might have to apologize and you might not have to apologize. I think this was just supposed to be like a fun spin on the beauty community as it is right now. I think when people say, oh, you shouldn't expect to be cancelled, but that's kind of what every YouTuber's paranoid about. If you speak to any YouTubers that have more of a following, like a bigger following, all of them, including me, are paranoid that we're going to get cancelled over something that doesn't even exist. Because I know I have nothing that you could find that would be problematic or show me in a bad light. But you still have that inkling of like, what if someone tries really, really hard and they make it happen? Because we've seen it before. We've seen people get cancelled over literally nothing, almost fabricated, plucked out of thin air kind of evidence. I think it was more just preparing them for the possibility of people disagreeing with them on things. And that's why he gave them such silly like scandals. But as a whole, I think this challenge could have been swapped out for something else. I'm glad that this was the minor challenge and not the big challenge. Do I think this could have been a different challenge? Yeah, sure. Am I as outraged about it as other people? Not really, because I saw the like almost humor in it. And of course, someone apologizing for like face streaming their pictures too much, it's very different to the kind of things that James Charles had to apologize for, etc. So I don't think he was trying to show his apologies in a bad light. He was almost just poking fun at some of the apologies that people have had to make. For example, do you guys remember when Jenna Marbles made a 45-minute apology about the tank that she bought for her fish after a fish expert told her to buy that tank? So she did her due diligence, she did her research, she bought a tank, and she was almost cancelled for buying the wrong tank for her fish, and she made a 45-minute long apology. Do I think she had to make that apology? Absolutely not. And that's what I mean by sometimes you could be the most uncancelable person and you will still somehow have people trying to cancel you. So I think that was the whole point of this challenge as a whole. But I think the way people kind of look at it now is a lot of big beauty gurus are problematic. So when they talk about like cancel culture and it like almost just seems a little bit like they're covering their own just a little bit. So in the first challenge, I think it was pretty funny. I think Benny was doing too much. Like the whole spraying your face with water, the eyelash like flicking upwards. I was like, you're doing too much. But then he won and I was really confused as to why he won. But hear me out. I think he won because Ashley was the best in this. Even though I can't remember what her scandal was, she was definitely the best in this. She was the most like neutral. If she won, this would be the third mini challenge that she won now in a row. Like she would have had pretty much, if she wins the next mini challenge, that would have been her clean streak. Because when you win the mini challenge, it almost gives you an advantage in the second challenge because you get some kind of a perk, like you get to start a bit earlier, you get to get advice from someone else, you get to talk to one of the judges, so on and so forth. So if they gave her the third win, they would give her another advantage and that would bring her closer to getting to the final, if that makes sense. I think they just wanted to give it to someone else. Kaylin didn't finish hers, so she couldn't have been the one to get the win. And Gabe's was very just normal. Like I don't think it was anything special, so I think they had to give it to Benny, even though I think Benny's was the most like icky. It's like when people talk about this challenge making them feel icky, I just think of Benny's apology of him like crying and doing the almost like Laura Lee thing back in the day. I swear I have nothing against Laura Lee, but I just think that apology will go down in history as one of the most iconic apologies ever. Because I don't know how she uploaded that and thought it was okay. I actually recently found Laura Lee and she has this like whole new persona which is very like fun and chill to watch. She adopted her niece. She's taking care of her now and she's really gone into like this mum mode, like this parent mode, and I think she's really grown from this, whatever, you know, people's opinions are. I think she's really grown from this. So when I bring her up, I don't mean this in like a mean way. I just think that apology was really bad, but she's definitely grown from it now. So that's good to see. Anyway, this was a long conversation about the mini challenge. The second challenge was a collab challenge. So they were supposed to collab with another influencer and it was supposed to just teach them about collabs. So who came out was Nikita, Nima, Bretman and Louis. Because Benny won the first challenge, he got to pick who he wanted to collab with and who other people were to collab with. So he said Benny with Bretman, Nikita with Ashley, Gabe and Nima, Kaylin and Louis. Now what I thought was pretty iconic was that both Nikita and Ashley wore the exact same shoes and they stood there like the baddest. Okay, they both looked great. What I also wanted to say was one of the judges was Lipstick Nick. Now, I'm not trying to blend my main channel with my second channel. This is usually not the kind of content I make on here. It's usually what I make on my main channel. But Lipstick Nick is friends with Jeffree Star. She's also the director of global artistry for Morphe, who both Jeffree Star and James Charles work for. So I think this is just such a weird situation that she's friends with both Jeffree Star and James Charles. Knowing the situation happening there, I think she's a very interesting character in the sense that she almost always stays above drama. She's always very low-key. She's like, no one really talks about her, but she's still doing her job really well. Everyone knows she's talented, but she's not like center of attention. She can be friends with everyone without kind of overstepping the boundaries. I think she's really playing the game well. Anyway, we stand an unbothered queen. I think they had 3 hours to make the collab and edit it. Once again, I think 3 hours is not enough time, but they always have to film it within one day. And I think they can't be there for like 10 hours. So the first thing they do when they're judging the videos is put up the title and thumbnail and say, would you click on this? Which I think is very important also because like you could have the most amazing video, but if your title and thumbnail is lackluster, it's just not going to get the recognition it deserves. So I just think, you know, it's very good to point them in the direction of like, yes, your video has to be good, but also title, thumbnail, it has to be, you know, doing what it has to do. I also think people have this general consensus of like what kind of thumbnails and titles they like to see on the internet, but that usually is not what YouTube kind of wants you to make as the title and thumbnail. For example, I know some people have a partner manager, so once you get to a certain number of subscribers, you get offered a partner manager and you apply for it, and sometimes you make it and sometimes you don't. I've applied like 3 times on my main channel and still haven't got it, so that's really cool. And I know some people have a partner manager who tells them how to make thumbnails, and it's that very clickbaity emojis and yellow and red, and like it's supposed to be like primary colors, but a lot of people say they don't actually like those thumbnails. There is a big discrepancy between what YouTube expects you to put out there and what almost viewers expect you to put out there. I think that's kind of an interesting balance of trying to balance that out. And also if your title and thumbnail is good and more people click on your videos, it's called the CTR, like the click-through rate on YouTube, and we look at that as a percentage. So for example, if your thumbnail gets shown 100,000 times, how many people of those 100,000 that your thumbnail was shown to actually clicked on it? And the CTR then kind of helps you to get put on recommended. So the higher your CTR, the more likely your video is to be recommended and suggested, and therefore then it will be clicked even more and shown even more. So that's why titles and thumbnails are so important, and that's why clickbait is what it is now. So now that we've got the basics down, Benny. So Benny was first. He tried to be like Bretman too much to not get lost in the background, and I think that made the video one of my least favorites. Obviously I'm not the least favorite, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but he definitely tried to put on a different persona that's usually not his. I think he's got a very specific personality that he definitely needs to push out there because it is an influencer personality. It's bright and bubbly and not loud but not obnoxious. It's just, you know, the right amount of jokey and funny and serious but still talented, and I think he should have really went with that. But what he tried to do is match up to Bretman's personality, and Bretman is a very specific character also, but in a different way. He's confident and loud, but not in the Benny way. They're both great. I'm not like, you know, not one's not better than the other, but I'm just saying they're two different louds. And I think Benny was definitely trying to be more Bretman because he didn't want to like fall back, and I think that's kind of what ruined it for me. So James actually said this, he wishes there was less profanity in that video, and I totally agree. So over the years, if you've been watching my main channel from when I started in the middle of 2018 to now almost the middle of 2020, so it's been 2 years, I've lowered my swearing by like 99%. I just don't do it anymore because I don't feel comfortable with it. I recently watched a Smoky Glow video that was kind of like things she wishes she knew when she was starting out on YouTube, that she kind of knows now. And she said that she had one video at the start. Everyone on YouTube has that one video that like blows them up a little bit and kind of pushes them out a little bit more at the start, and she had one, and she says that the one thing she wishes was that that video had less swearing in it, because she doesn't swear anymore at all, but in that video she swore a lot, and she was like, I wish that that wasn't the video that was pushed out, because, you know, it just doesn't help to have that persona out there. It makes you more sound and look more aggressive and unapproachable, and that's why I stopped doing it on my main channel. And that's why I think people complain. It's because I used to really have a go at people, and because I swore a lot, it made it sound really like forceful and like I was so opinionated. Swearing doesn't equal opinionated, and not swearing doesn't equal not opinionated. I'm still a very opinionated person, I'm just not as aggressive anymore. And I think people really lived for the aggressive Angelika and the one that was like scary and stuff. I don't want to be that person anymore, I really don't. And I think people are kind of disappointed in that, but you know, whatever floats everyone's boat. So I really respect what James said, because it teaches people to put that in straight away, to kind of dial down the aggressiveness and swearing. And if you're gonna swear, you know, just silence it out, don't bleep it. I hate when people put loud obnoxious sounds over a swear word, because usually they don't match up the volumes perfectly. So they'll be speaking in like a reasonable tone and there'll be just this loud siren. You can literally just silence it, just turn down the volume completely, and it'll just be a gap in the audio. Like that works perfectly fine. But I'm glad he mentioned that, because I think it's, if someone asked me now, like, you know, some pro tips for YouTube, I'd say 1, equipment isn't as important as you think it is. 2, don't swear as much. I think for some channels it definitely works, but for most channels it's just not brandable. It's not easy to advertise, and YouTube just hates it. So if you're trying to prosper on this platform, you have to kind of compromise a little bit and, you know, be flexible. Camera positioning. Benny was kind of, so instead of being like, okay, so if you're filming a collab, you'd want it to be kind of like this. So both people are in frame. He was kind of like this a lot of the time. So positioning of the camera is important. Sometimes I mess up my positioning, and sometimes, and me and my friend spoke about this because he actually did something to do with like videography and stuff, and he was like to me, did you realize how much of a gap there is between your head and the top of the camera? And I said yes. I always notice it when I'm editing, and then it's too late to fix it because I'd already filmed it. But it's because I slouch, I can't sit up straight. So yeah, and he, I'm glad, didn't sabotage the others. Oh my god, he could have really messed this up if he paired up the wrong personalities together. I think he could have really messed it up for people. But he said in the like judges verdict place, like when they were judging his video, he said that he paired those people up together because he genuinely thought that they would make the best videos together, and not because he wanted to sabotage them. And James said, well, that could have been a bad decision because this is a competition. And he was like, and I'm so glad that he didn't like, you know, sabotage the rest just so you could move up on the ranks a little bit more. I think it shows a good character on Benny's side. Ash had a creative idea of, instead of doing makeup, which is what everyone else did, take off makeup and get more vulnerable and open up a little bit. They were dressed similar and they had a similar personality. I think they really, really vibed all together. They both opened up. They were great on camera. Ash and Kaylin are probably the best on camera. That's why they have probably the most subs out of everyone. And some people, like for example Gabe, they're more Instagram MUAs rather than YouTube MUAs, and there is a big difference. Some people just don't feel comfortable speaking on camera, and that's fine. So I think Gabe is definitely more of the Instagram kind, and Kaylin and Ash are definitely more of the YouTube types. So Gabe was, he did the, his idea was way too complicated. He did an Aries because Nima is an Aries, just like me. So he did this whole fire makeup look on her, but it took absolutely ages. So they only had about half an hour to edit all of that down, and she was like speeding him along while he was doing the makeup because she's trying to help him out. But in the end, most of the video was basically a sped up video with no sound, no talking, no music, and I think that's why that video, essentially, spoiler alert, was the one that lost. Kaylin had one of the best chemistries out of the couples. I think Kaylin and Louis, as well as Ash and Nikita, both had incredible chemistry. I think the inside jokes that link to his channel is what basically collabs are about. It's two people coming together and kind of joining the two styles of their channels, and I'm glad that she was kind of aware of what Louis does, so she was able to incorporate that into her video. I think it's really good. And they have those little bloopers at the end. Of course, like, they didn't have 5 hours to edit this video. They only had like maybe an hour. So they did the best they could. Yeah, the editing was a little bit choppy and they definitely could have kept in more, but I think for the time they had, the video came out really nice. In conclusion, Benny was putting on a persona that was kind of what put me off. Ashley's was probably the best. Gabe is talented, but he's not a YouTube influencer. I don't see him as like this big YouTube personality. I see him more as an Instagram MUA, someone who's very talented at doing makeup, but not someone who's necessarily always like in front of the camera, like talking and showing stuff off. And Kaylin is funny, but she lacked kind of time in the editing, and because they lacked time, she cut out a lot of herself to kind of put more Louis in there, even though this is about her and not about Louis. So she actually took out a lot of like her personality out of the video, which like, she's the one being judged, not Louis. So I think she could have definitely sacrificed him for herself. So the video lacked her in it. There was no winner. And like I said, spoiler alert, Gabe was the one that left the challenge this week. It was quite obvious, to be fair, from the first episode who was going to end up in the finale. I said in my first video that I thought it was going to be Kaylin and Ashley 100%, because I found them the most influencery while also being talented and having the personality and so on and so forth. And then it was going to be either Benny and Indigo, because you always have top 3 in the finale and then one leaves halfway through the episode and then you have the 2 left that are fighting for the position. I was going to say it was going to be Ashley and Kaylin in the like finale, and then it was going to be either Indigo and Benny fighting for that like number 3 position, and it is Benny now. So the outro isn't as awkward anymore. So with the first episode, when Brittany was leaving, she was crying and it was very awkward to try and like cry but while also promoting your YouTube and Instagram and stuff. With every episode, it's kind of less cringy to me. Maybe it's because we're all kind of getting used to it, but also the people are not crying as much, so that's not a dig at Britney. Obviously she was very emotional because of everything else happening in her life as well, but yeah, it's starting to get a little less awkward. The next episode is the finale. I actually wish the show had more contestants and more episodes, because 4 just isn't enough. Because once you like get into it and you know these characters, you just want more. So I wish they had more contestants, maybe like 8, to have an extra episode or 2 in there. And yeah, I'm kind of sad that's coming to an end. I know people are kind of upset about the apology task, and I think I want to know what you guys think. Were you guys like offended by it? Because when I look at Twitter, it seems like an overwhelmingly like negative response to it. But then look at YouTube, and YouTube's overwhelmingly positive. Like his comments and like dislike ratio on the video are perfect, it's fine. Sometimes I think Twitter is an echo chamber of opinions, where you go on there and you hear an opinion and it's got like 200,000 likes or 500,000 likes, and you think that this is what everyone thinks, this is like the unanimous opinion. And then you go outside of Twitter and no one else thinks that. No one else shares this opinion. I think Twitter is such a anomaly with opinions. It's also one of the most toxic platforms in reality. Like I love it. I'm on Twitter every day. I love Twitter more than Instagram. But if I was going to say which platform like hurts my feelings more, it's going to be Twitter. But anyway, that's the video. Tell me who you guys think is going to win. Tell me guys what you think about both the tasks and what you think about the show overall, and if you want a season 2. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below anything, comment down below, and subscribe, because I post videos every time something comes into my head and I feel like filming it. So hit that bell, be notified when that's happening. Social media links and main channel in the description, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.